Ladies and gentlemen, the long wait is finally over as we only have one more night separating us from college football, and I can't wait. And on top of that, the cherry on top of it all is that there's a game tomorrow I've been looking forward to for quite some time, as I think it's going to carry massive implications as Nebraska takes on Northwestern in Ireland of all places. Today, we need to break down this game. We're going to give a preview. We're going to talk about all the things I'm going to be looking for because I think this is a game that college football as a whole needs to be keyed in on. But before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I need to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, Y for yes, N for no. Do you agree that this game is of massive importance for Scott Frost and the Nebraska Cornhuskers? And let me know what you're expecting. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. Hit that bell notification as I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it. And if you enjoyed this content, like and comment down below, as those interactions, though seemingly small, are truly massive to content creators such as myself, and both getting picked up and maintained by the YouTube algorithm. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. And this is a game where some college football fans might look at it and not think that this is going to be as big of a game in terms of impact as I believe it will be. And whenever we look at this, we need to understand one thing about Nebraska, that even though their record was less than stellar last season, this was a team that was better than their record indicated. They had 8 losses that came down to 1 score, and whenever you see that, you know that has to be heartbreaking for a fan base, because that typically points to reasons that the team wasn't getting the job done instead of just being not a very good team. So this year, fast forwarding, is a huge year for Scott Frost. This is a year where his job may well come down to the results they put forward this year. And furthermore, Nebraska did great work in the transfer portal. So this is a great opportunity for Scott Frost to get it all together. Last season, that team showed glimpses of being a really solid football team. But whether it was hurting themselves in special teams and penalties in the worst times, which we're going to break down, Nebraska never just seemed to get over that hump. But this is a great opportunity as they take on an opponent in Northwestern who's not only extremely well coached. Once again, kind of the same spiel with Northwestern. If you look at their record last year, it was far less than inspiring. But one thing we do need to know about Northwestern: Pat Fitzgerald is a fantastic head coach. And one thing we can expect with Northwestern is that they're going to be a disciplined football team and that they're going to be a constantly improving football team. That's just kind of seemingly been what Pat Fitzgerald does there. And on top of that, one of the matchups I'm going to be looking at really closely is Whipple against Jim O'Neill, because Nebraska brings in a new offensive coordinator in Whipple from Pitt, and he just fielded a fantastic offense. But there was a lot of offseason drama between Whipple and Pat Narduzzi, as Pat Narduzzi came forward, the head coach of Pitt, and said that Whipple was someone who is perfectly okay with abandoning the run game in place of the pass game. I can't expect Nebraska to abandon the run game against Northwestern, especially when we go back a year, and that's what allowed them so much success against Northwestern a year ago against this Jim O'Neill defense, is the run game. So I absolutely think it's going to be something they utilize. And even on top of that, just to kind of add in my last little point on the Narduzzi-Whipple controversy, just because Narduzzi put it out there, I think Whipple's going to be going forward kind of trying to prove to everybody that's just nonsense. Yes, I have a highly effective passing concept that I'm going to roll out, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to run the football, especially whenever this team was so successful against Northwestern running the ball. Now, one thing we do need to realize is that after that Nebraska game, Northwestern made adjustments to that defense that did help them, but this is going to be a great test if you're a Northwestern fan. You just saw Nebraska gash this defense a year ago. Implementations were made, changes were made, but now you get to see how far these changes have been implemented, how much your defense has improved. So, the first thing I'm really looking for in this game is Nebraska's offense, specifically the running game, against Northwestern's defense. Because the other thing I'm looking at is, while Nebraska returns some very talented running back and even gets in the #1 junior college running back in the nation, which I always talk about, guys, whenever you get in a junior college player or even a guy out the transfer portal, if that guy has upside and experience, you're winning. Because as much as I love recruiting, it is one of my favorite things about college football. The one thing that a high school recruit doesn't offer you is experience. There's upside there, but there's not the experience. Whenever you get in a guy that's the #1 junior college running back in the nation, in Anthony Grant, he offers you not only upside, but experience because he's played college football before. He knows what it takes to make those adjustments, and he's been able to be successful in doing so. And so I love that addition that Nebraska got. But likewise, if we look at Northwestern's defensive front, they lost a lot of talent along that defensive front, something I think Nebraska is going to look to take advantage of. Now look, as much as I praise Nebraska's work in the transfer portal, we have to also understand Northwestern did a really good job in that department as well. But at the end of the day, I still like Nebraska's chances running the football successfully against this Northwestern defensive front, especially this early in the year. I think that bodes well for the Cornhuskers when I think they have a little bit more continuity. The other area for Nebraska that I'm really interested in is Casey Thompson, because I think I could make a really good argument that Casey Thompson was one of the biggest transfer portal wins of the entire offseason. Whenever he goes to Nebraska, he offers Nebraska somebody that found success at Texas and was able to find success with the Texas Longhorns with a team that didn't have a consistent offensive line. If you go back and watch Casey Thompson at Texas, really study it, his offensive line didn't do him any favors, and even then, Texas was putting up big offensive numbers. Now, Steve Sarkisian is a fantastic play caller. I don't think anybody would really argue that, but at the end of the day, Casey Thompson was going out there and getting the job done with an offensive line that really wasn't allowing him to go through his progressions in the way you would like. So Casey Thompson is someone I've been keyed in on ever since he entered the transfer portal, especially when it was announced that he would be going to Nebraska, because I thought that was huge for Scott Frost, especially this year, where this is a make-it-or-break-it year for Nebraska and Scott Frost. Getting in a quarterback such as Casey Thompson that you know has developed in the passing game and still offers some of that athleticism. Now, he's not Adrian Martinez running the football. That's not something I think we're going to see, but he is capable when the play breaks down and he needs to escape. He's got the athleticism to make a defense pay, and because of that, I think he fits what Nebraska wants to do perfectly. But on the flip side, right, what about Northwestern's offense against Nebraska's defense? And luckily, Nebraska's defense not only did great work in the transfer portal, getting in an O'Shawn Mathis from TCU, a Stephon Wynn from Alabama, a Kane Williams from Alabama. Nebraska did a lot of good work in the transfer portal, but now whenever we're talking about Nebraska's defense against Northwestern's offense, I have to like the opportunities Nebraska's defense can create. But outside of one position on Northwestern's offensive line, Peter Skoronski, who he's a beast. He's going to be a dude that I'm going to be watching all game because you're going to have your talented edge rushers going up against him, and that's just going to be teach tape, right? Like, that's a matchup scouts in the NFL are going to be keyed in on. But I digress off of that. Outside of that one offensive lineman for Northwestern, I'm not saying they have a devout offensive line, but I am saying I think Nebraska likes the matchups that are going to be presented, especially in passing downs, where the Nebraska Cornhuskers have some edge rushers they have faith in. And if they can get Northwestern in obvious passing downs, this could be a situation where Nebraska's defense is really able to take advantage of those situations. So this is a game that I'm super keyed in on. Can Nebraska get out of their own way? Because this was a team that constantly found themselves tripping over their own feet in the worst possible scenarios. Nebraska fans, I am so sorry to take you back a year, but when I go back and rewatch that Nebraska OU game from a year ago, Nebraska played a solid game. They were in the game the entire time, but inopportune penalties and special teams absolutely throttled them in that game. And that wasn't a one-off. I bring you the Oklahoma game because that's a former rival, right? Like, I think that game just really showed and is a great example of what I'm trying to say, is that Nebraska would be in a game, in a situation, doing well, and then trip on their own feet, and then bounce back, and then trip on their own feet once again, whether that's special teams lapses, whether that's penalties. It just seemed to be something that was always there. And if you're Scott Frost going into this year, that's something that has got to be cleaned up. Because you may not know how far along Casey Thompson is in this offense, but the one thing you can control are the mental lapses such as penalties. That is something that can be controlled. At the end of the day, though, I do have to give the edge to the Nebraska Cornhuskers, as I think they just have more firepower right now than does Northwestern. I love Pat Fitzgerald. I think he's one of the better coaches in college football, and I think he's a coach that never really gets the recognition he deserves. He has done a great job up there with Northwestern. But at the end of the day, when I look at what Nebraska was able to get out the transfer portal, and when I look at the importance of this season for Scott Frost, it's do or die for Nebraska this year. And this season is a season where he can right the wrongs, but it all has to come together, and I think it's a great opportunity for it to come together for the Nebraska Cornhuskers, and what a way to start it than with a Big Ten opponent, someone you were able to beat last year in Northwestern, and I think Nebraska is going to look to try and replicate what they did last year. I think we're going to be looking at a balanced Nebraska. Whipple has got incredibly strong passing techniques, passing sets that had a lot of success. But at the same time, I think with the drama that Pat Narduzzi created in this offseason, saying that Whipple was someone who will abandon the run in favor of the pass, and especially whenever we look, and Nebraska beat down Northwestern last season through the run, I think Whipple is going to be looking to send a signal that I'm not going to abandon the run. I'm only going to improve the passing offense that Nebraska has, and I can't wait to see what this looks like. But hop down to the comments, let me know what you're thinking. My prediction is Nebraska by at least 2 scores, whether that's 2 touchdowns, a touchdown, and a field goal, but I like at least 10 points in favor of Nebraska, as I think they look to send a message week 1. Hop down, let me know what you're thinking about this awesome matchup. That's it. See ya.